this week to Parashat Beha'alotecha. It's a bit of a mouthful. Beha'alotecha. It comes from the Shoresh Ein Lamed Hey, but as you can see, the Hey dropped out, as it often does when it's in the last part of the Shoresh, and it means when you go up. So in order to see how that became the name of the Parsha, we simply have to look at the first Psukim, because the name of the Parsha always is one of the first words of the Parsha. So at the beginning of the Parsha, there are instructions for Aharon about the lighting of the menorah in the Mishkan, and it says, Beha'alotecha, when you go up to light the menorah. After those instructions are given, we are told that the Levi'im are inaugurated. In other words, there's a ceremony for them to become officially helpers in the Mishkan. The next thing we're told about is that it has been a full year since Bnei Yisrael left Egypt. So it's time for them to celebrate Pesach again. How is that done? Well, in those days, it's done with a Passover sacrifice. There is a Zevach Pesach, and that sacrifice is made. However, if you think back, we learned about how people can be pure and impure. There are some people who come to Moshe and say, at the time that you made the sacrifice, we were impure. We couldn't come into the Mishkan because we had been near somebody dead. But we don't want to miss our opportunity to make our Pesach sacrifice. So Moshe asks God, what do we do? And God says, 1 month after Pesach, you will have Pesach Sheni, which we talked about this here a month after we had Pesach. And those people could come and they can make their sacrifice. And they did eat it with matzah, but they didn't have to go through all the laws that became associated with other parts of Pesach. They would make the sacrifice, they would eat it with matzah, and that was their way to make up for missing the sacrifice before. So we're then reminded that at the Mishkan, ever since it's been built and inaugurated, there's been the pillar of cloud has been resting on top of the Ohel Moed. So there on top of that tent, there's been a pillar of cloud during the daytime, and at night, it's the fire, just like we had before when they were moving that God was leading them with. And we're told that this cloud, this pillar, is going to stay there over the Mishkan whenever they're staying in the place that they've camped. But whenever it's time for them to move and travel to another place, then the pillar of cloud or the pillar of fire will move off and away, and then will lead them on their way so they know where to go in their travels. Moshe is told that he is to make 2 silver trumpets, and these silver trumpets are going to announce lots of different things, but one of the things that they'll be used to announce is that it's time for them to get ready to leave and pack up camp and move along with this pillar of cloud. So actually, it's time for them to leave. They have been here almost a year at Mount Sinai. It's time for them to get ready and leave. All this time that they've been here, Moshe's father-in-law Yitro has been there. Remember when he came, he met them partway, and he brought Moshe's family to him. And he gave Moshe the idea of creating a court system so that Moshe didn't have to work so hard. And so at this point, Moshe says to Yitro, come with us on our travels, stay and be part of us. But Yitro decides he's going to go back to his own people. So here is something that you'll find interesting. We are told that every time that the ark, the Aron HaKodesh, is going to be moved by Leviim carrying it, Moshe would say, Vayehi bin Soa ha'aron, Vayomer Moshe, Kuma Hashem v'yafutzu oivecha, Vayanusu misanecha mipanecha. Have you heard this before? Vayehi binsoa ha'aron vayomer Moshe. When the ark would travel, Moshe would say, Kuma Hashem vayefutzu oivecha. Moshe would say to God to protect them all and to chase off enemies as they're traveling. So this is still part of our service when we go to open the Aron HaKodesh in the synagogue. But initially it was said whenever the Aron was picked up to be carried in the desert. Now, you know that Moshe is sometimes going to get frustrated in the desert, and this is where it really starts. All this time, God has been taking care of the people. They are now moving through the desert, and the people start to complain. They complain about the journey. They complain about the food. What's the food? The food is the man. God is giving them miraculous food every day. They don't even have to make any huge effort. They go out and collect it. It's there for them. But they start to complain. Remember the wonderful food? There's no meat here. We want to eat meat. When we were in Egypt, we had it so good. We ate meat. We had those fresh onions. Remember how wonderful it was back in Egypt? Moshe can't take it. He is so frustrated. He says to God, he said, if this is what it's going to be like, just kill me right now. I can't take it, these people. And God says, I'm going to help you out. I want you to go find 70 elders. They should be the leaders of the tribes. Bring them together, and I am going to take the Spirit of God that I've given to you, that helps you be a leader, and I'm going to magnify it. I'm going to make it greater so that it extends and covers them. And they're going to help you in this job you have as you walk through the desert with the people so that you don't have to carry this burden all alone. And God says, and that meat that they want, I'll give them meat. I'm going to give them quails to eat. I'm going to give them so many quails to eat that they're going to be sick to their stomach. The way God says it is he says, until they're coming out of their noses. So let's see what happens then. At this point, Moshe goes and he gets those 70 people to be the elders. And two of the people that are supposed to go are named Eldad and Medad. And they don't come along. So Yehoshua becomes concerned. Yehoshua is Moshe's right-hand man. And Yehoshua says, Eldad and Medad stayed in the camp, and they're prophesying. They're saying prophecies, telling them that God has spoken to them, to all the people. And Yehoshua is angry on Moshe's account that somebody else has a prophecy other than Moshe. And Moshe calms him down and says, it's okay. I am not the only one that has a prophecy. Let them be. It's all right. So now Moshe has his 70 elders that are going to help him. And the other thing God said was he was going to send the quail. So here come the quail into the camp. So many quail that they eat quail and oh my gosh, it's everywhere. Even the people that don't even work have piles and piles of quail. And the people eat their quail and they eat their quail. And then there's a plague and a bunch of the people die. I don't quite know exactly how many. Obviously not everybody. Most people keep on going in the desert. Maybe it was the ones that were the most gluttonous, who are the most uncontrolled over, or maybe it was the ones that complained the most. This isn't clear. I'm sure there are lots of midrashim on that. I should look that up. The next thing we're told about is a story you've heard about before. Aharon and Miriam come and they complain to Moshe. What are they complaining about? Well, they've been talking about Moshe, and they've expressed that they don't like the wife he's chosen. So Moshe here, we understand to have another wife, because we're told she's a wife from Egypt. The name Keturah is mentioned. And, oh no, that was Aharon. That was Abraham. Okay, now I'm getting confused. Erase that. My mind is wandering. He has married a woman that comes from Cush, not from Egypt. Cush is what we call today Ethiopia, and they complain that he's married a woman from there. Are they complaining because she's not part of Bnei Israel originally? Are they complaining because maybe she's coming from Ethiopia and her skin is dark? Different commentators have different ideas about what they're complaining about. But they don't just complain about that. They then complain and they say to Moshe, you know, we're prophets too. God talks to us too. What makes you so special? And it seems like a big part of their complaint is that they feel like Moshe is acting too special. And what happens after this is that God tells Miriam and Aharon to come forward, and he speaks to them and makes it clear to them that while they are important, Moshe is different than them. He is the only person that really talks to God face to face, that really communicates with God in a way that they can't, and that they should be grateful for the position they have, and they have no right to complain. And then, remember, we talked about the disease Sara'at. Miriam, this is the place where Miriam gets the disease Sara'at because she spoke Lashon Hara. She was gossiping about Moshe, and she ends up with Sara'at. Right away, Moshe prays to God and said, please heal her. And God says, you know, Miriam might be a prophetess, but she also needs to go by the same rules as everybody else, and she needs to leave the camp for 7 days because the Sara'at makes her impure, and in 7 days, when it's finished, she can come back in. And that is where this parsha ends. A lot of familiar stories that we know about the traveling in the desert happen in this parsha. Bnei Israel is still at the beginning of its journey through the desert. They just have left Har Sinai. So there's much more to come. We are not going to be together throughout the summer for you to hear it all. But I do encourage you to look at the Godcasts. You can always go to the Bim Bam website and look up and see what the Godcast is for the week and keep track of what's going on, because the Torah portions keep going even when we're not at school. I have loved learning Parsha with you this year. I hope you have found it meaningful and have learned a lot as well. There is no Parsha assignment to give a Devar Torah this week because we don't have much time together. But feel free to share this with your family if you'd like. And I wish you a Shabbat Shalom very early in the week.